Brett Yormark, I think, has done some good and some bad when it comes to the college football playoff next year. Okay. Well, there is a small win for the Big 12 that I will tell you about. I truly don't understand why Yormark won't get on board with a 24-team playoff at this point. And I'm somebody who doesn't like the idea in general of a 24-team playoff, okay? Let me explain. We got some reporting. I think this was from Brian Fisher this week at Sports Illustrated, but 3 of the 4 college football playoff or conference commissioners, 3 of the 4 Power 4 conference commissioners met in person last week to discuss the future format of the playoff. The 3 that were there in person, Brett Yormark, Jim Phillips, Greg Sankey, Tony Pate of the Big Ten had to be virtually available for it. And as it was pointed out in this article, I think appropriately, that's kind of emblematic of where things stand right now, because the reporting from Brian Fisher is, I'll just read it to you like this. The ACC, Big 12, and SEC have generally coalesced around a move to 16 teams in the playoff, with the existing 5 automatic qualifiers for the highest-ranked conference champions and 11 at-large bids. AKA, he is saying the ACC, Big 12, and SEC have generally coalesced around a move to 16 teams, which would be the 5+11 plan. It's taken a lot of criticism from Big 12 fans or folks, who are looking at this from the Big 12 or ACC perspective, like, you're going to be in trouble, man. If it's 11 at-larges, yeah, you'll get your one team in, but good luck beyond that. How many years are you going to actually wind up with an at-large, and you'll just be trumped every single year? This just allows for what's happening now, but even more, opening up 4 extra spots for the SEC and Big Ten to fill it up. Now, when this was the battle 5+11 versus 4-4-2-2, when the other option was the SEC and Big Ten trying to ram through hey, Big 12 and ACC, sign up for us getting 4 auto bids, you getting 2, so you are codifying that you are half as valuable as us as a league. I was totally on board with Yormark pushing back on 5+11. Like, don't do that. You can't basically sign into law that you're half as valuable as that other conference. It's important not to do that for a number of business reasons. Even though that would be better for you, you would objectively, you'd get more teams in the playoff every single year if you did it. There are a lot of big picture reasons why you should not be doing that. That made perfect sense to me. But now we're sitting here where the proposal on the table from the Big Ten is, hey, 4-4-4-4. We'll all get 4 auto bids and figure it out. And then at-larges. And yes, we'll probably get most of those at-larges, but you'll get 4 teams in every single year. Nobody's getting more at-larges than anybody else. And man, it sure seemed like Brett Yormark was kind of on board with that, because remember this was not that long ago, October 21st. I asked him at Big 12 Media Days, Big 12 Basketball Media Day, but Yormark had a press conference. I asked him about this. Ross Dellinger had reported at that point about this Big 10 proposal, and Brett Yormark sure seemed like at that point he was on board with it.
I know you've been a big proponent of the 5+11 playoff format. There was a report about a month ago from Ross Dellinger. Could be a format out there with 3 or 4 auto bids for each Power 4 conference. Is that something that you could get behind in supporting or change your stance?
Is your question, would I get behind a format that gave us the same amount as the ACC, the SEC, and the Big Ten?
Correct.
I'd be up for that. I'd consider that. I've always said you got to earn it on the field, right? And, nothing should be predetermined, come the beginning of the season. So if there was a conversation about a format that gave the 4 power conferences the same amount of AQs, I'm all ears.
Okay. There's Brett Yormark. When I asked him that's been almost exactly 2 months ago to the day, not that long ago. And he seemed on board with that. Now this reporting, again, we're just going off of what Brian Fisher has said here. Generally, and that is in italics, generally coalesced around a move to 16 teams in the playoff with 5 automatic qualifiers, the 5+11. This just seems like if I were Brett Yormark, I would be so publicly on board with this. This is like, to me, this is to the victor go the spoils. You put up a real fight to not get railroaded by 4-4-2-2 when that seemed inevitable. A year ago, 18 months ago, I just thought, well, that's going to happen. I don't like it at all, but that's going to happen. But Brett Yormark and the ACC put their foot down, and they were like, no, we're not doing that. And even though you guys technically have the decision-making power, we'll threaten to sue over the language of we at least get reasonable input here. We're not doing this. Well, okay, You got the Big Ten back to the drawing board, and they said, fine, 4-4-4-4. You'll be on equal playing field. You'll get 4 teams in the playoff every year. Take your winnings. This is hitting the jackpot on the playing at the casino, right? You pull the lever on the slot machine, you hit the jackpot. You're just going to leave the coins sitting there and not take them, or the ticket. Not going to take the big ticket up to the window and get your payout. I hope that this is just some very loose reporting, and perhaps behind the scenes it's a little bit more movement toward being in favor of this. And I know that this will come down to what the SEC wants, and the SEC is going to have to get on board with the Big Ten's proposal for anything to matter. But saw last time, the SEC didn't get what it initially wanted because of the position that the Big 12 took. So do it again. You got somebody to offer you free money. Man, go take it. Like, the media cycle lately in college football has been so filled with, and I know a lot of this is about the G5 and the playoff, but it's about these national voices in college football talking about, we don't want Cinderella. We don't want the G5. We just want the biggest teams and biggest brands playing, right? They're just, they say the quiet part out loud these days. And they're talking about they want the little guys out. You may not be the little guys, but you're kind of the medium guys. They're coming for you next. And sometimes they're really coming for you right now. Like, the sharks are circling the waters, man. You see where this is going. You're going to get pushed further and further out by people who just said, well, I just want to watch Ohio State play Georgia. And that's, in an NFL domed stadium in the play. Like, that's what I really care about. In a sterile dome, I want to see Ohio State play Georgia. You better take your 4 spots if you can, man. I'd be pushing all my chips to the middle of the table on that. Like, listen to this. I know Josh Pate's taken a lot of hate for this. I don't really think he's wrong with anything he says here. It's just the unfortunate reality of where we're at. But this was what he had to say about BYU recently. And shout out to Ben Criddle for bringing this to my attention. But let's listen here to what he says. This is about BYU and dropping after losing the conference championship game.
Not all conference championship games are equal, because not all conferences are equal. So there was a big question floating around last week when Ohio State did not drop after losing the Big Ten title game, and Alabama didn't drop after losing the SEC title game, but Brigham Young did drop after losing the Big 12 championship game. And the question was, why is this product and process so hypocritical? The truth is because the Big Ten and the SEC are different than the Big 12, and they will be treated as such. Now, that's a lesson that I think most of us knew. Not all of us want to admit it, but most of us knew that. Was it favoritism? If you call rational observation of the sport favoritism, yes. I do know there are a lot of conspiracies out there that, well, since this conference is in bed with this network or that conference is in bed with that network, that's where the favoritism comes from. And I don't necessarily know that it's as much that as it is just acknowledging where most of the good teams and the good talent is. You don't have to like it. I don't love it, but that is the way it is. I was already aware of this truth. This truth has been evident to me for a while, that not all conferences are going to get treated equally.
So there you go. Once again, I know that's not something Big 12 fans will like to hear. I will emphasize Josh Pate did say there, like, he doesn't love it, but it is the ultimate reality. And it is like the Big 12 gets treated differently. Except here, the Big 10 is giving you an opportunity to get treated the same with 4 auto bids. So take it and run. Take it and get out of there, man. I'm waiting for the story. I'm waiting for the story now where it's like Yormark is pounding the table in front of everybody for, like, yes, let's do the 2014 playoff and take our 4 auto bids. I don't know if there's 40 chess going on here. He doesn't want to cross the SEC for some reason on this deal. I don't know. I could only speculate on that, but this seems like a no-brainer to me. Jim Phillips, there is at least a quote from Jim Phillips of the ACC where he seems to hedge a little bit. He says, quote, I think you have to at least look at 16, but you may need to look at a little bit more than that. That's what we're doing. Like, okay, that seems like Jim Phillips hedging a bit. And he talked about we need to make sure every team that could possibly win the national championship gets in there. Now, I don't think you need 24 teams to do that. You guys know my take on the overall state of the playoff. 2014 playoff is ridiculous. We do not need that many teams. I would prefer to go back to the BCS, because if you just have 2 teams playing for the title, guess what? more emphasis on the regular season and more emphasis on like things other than the playoff, which is what makes the sport great. I had to. I saw this tweet this week from Joe Wheat. I had to bring this up. I think it fits here, and it's the best tweet that I have seen in a long time. Okay, so Joe is responding to the Joel Klatt tweet soundbite that made a bunch of waves this week, where he was crapping on the NCAA tournament because no one likes Cinderellas and it's not a good way to crown a champion and all that, which obviously is a ridiculous take. Everyone loves the tournament. But Joe says, what talking heads don't understand is college sports at its core is not about crowning a national champion. It's about regional pride, beating your rival, and vibes. Those who disagree would be far happier covering the NBA or NFL. That is out of the park, grand slam, home run. That is what college sports is. The problem is we've already moved so far away from that in the last decade of college football that you just want to bang your head against a wall, because that is what made college football different and great. The more that we try and just make this all about who's winning the national champion and who's playing in the playoff, it's a bad thing for the overall health of the sport. So this puts me in a compromising position. I understand, because my overall take would be what you want is to focus this on regional rivalries, teams playing teams that are geographically located close to them. Imagine that, not splitting the conferences up. And you want focus on beating your rival, and so much pressure every game in the regular season if you do want to have a chance to make that national championship game. It's about, what does he say, rivalries, regionality, rivalries, and vibes. That's it. That's college football. But we continue. All the national voices in the sport seem to, at best, be indifferent about it, and at worst, be actively cheering for it to go away from that, to be more like professional sports and just who's in the playoff and who's making the national championship or the championship game. Like, ugh. Having said that, as a Big 12 fan, you've given me no choice but to root for the 2014 playoff and for auto buys for my conference, because otherwise, way better chance that the league just gets trampled and you're not going to have any shot in the portal, because playoff access will be so much, it'll be so much less accessible from your league than it will others. So you've given me, Brett Yormark, whoever, no choice in the Big 12 but to say that is definitively the best option that we have, is to hope and pray that we get a 2014 playoff where there are 4 auto bids for our league. So if you want to call me out on, well, John, you've said before you'd rather go BCS, and what are you doing in 2014 playoff? I understand that there is some inherent hypocrisy there, but I'm a Big 12 fan first. If you're advocating for the best thing for the Big 12, that is 1,000% what it is. It's not even close. It is not even close. If you want a little bit of positive news here, there was some reporting from Ross Dellinger. This had already been out there, but it was just underreported. People hadn't cared about it until recently, and it was really the Notre Dame part of this, where if they're in the top 12 moving forward, they will be in no matter what. So this year they would have been in even if they were ranked below Miami the way it went down. But there's also the piece of the memorandum of understanding for the playoff moving forward, if it stays at 12 or 14, that it's no longer going to be highest ranked conference champions. There will be a guaranteed auto bid for the SEC, ACC, Big 12, and Big 10 champs. So your headline there for the Big 12 is, if they get to January 23rd and do not expand the playoff to 16 or beyond, next year the Big 12 champion is automatically in. You won't have to worry about any, hey, could Tulane or Army actually pass Arizona State? You won't have to worry about any of that. You won't have to worry about the ACC situation this year with Duke. None of that would be on the table if they don't expand beyond 16 next year, which it still seems like it's just a long shot that anybody's going to agree enough on that to actually make it happen. So for what it's worth there.